So to begin with, I just want to apologise for the awful focus on last week's video. Being a technological illiterate in the Silicon Age has its challenges, but in the intervening week, I've done my homework and I'm really starting to feel good about everything. Let's do this. So firstly, I'd just like to thank everyone who commented on the last video. Please feel free to do it again. And to the person who said that if I put a suit on, I'd look like Keir Starmer, well, here's a picture of me that was taken at a wedding recently. As you can see, no resemblance whatsoever. There is a childlike joy to looking at pictures painted by a druid banged out of his gourd on mushrooms, but there's so much more to Inish than that. When card drafting is good, the act of giving away a card is painful, and every draft in Inish hurts. Sometimes you have to subsume your own needs and keep something you're not too keen on just to deny others. This game isn't a Skinner box, it's a generator of tooth-grinding decisions. The landscape constantly changes and alliances are broken and just as quickly shattered. Friends become friends and then enemies and then friends again as the terrain gallops towards its climax. The combat here is beautifully simple and unobtrusive, and yet victory is always satisfying. This game is brutal, engrossing, and incredible entertainment, and not so opaque as many others in this area of the hobby. This isn't my favourite game in this genre, but it's an awfully good one nevertheless. I have a big mouth. It's just one entry on a huge list of positive personal characteristics, and every time I play the ghost in this game, I get jawache because I have to bite down so hard to stop myself erupting at the sheer ineptitude of my fellow players. Why don't you just read my bloody mind, I want to say. The clue matches the colour every time! I love games that ask you to divine the intentions of the people around the table, and this game does it brilliantly. Everything just gets so gloriously muddled and misunderstood. Accusations of uselessness abound, and the post-mortem examination of failure is almost as much fun as playing the game itself. Games are about forging connections, about getting to know one another, and Tire Meche de Mostvo allows you to crack open your friends' skulls and have a good look inside. The world is built on ambition. Ambition is our legacy. It started with the ambition to shake off those gills, grow some legs and conquer the land. Now, some buzzkills might say that your first game shouldn't be a 7-hour conversion exercise, but Tim Pulse, he doesn't listen to those kind of naysayers. No, he summons the spirit of those early amphibians and he just does it. This game is a masterful design though. It starts off slow and simple and spoons on complexity as the game grows. It's also wonderfully intuitive. It makes so much sense to move, do something, and then move again. There's real depth here too, and the way the game grows from a couple of modest hexes to a huge board yelling options at the players is a real journey. This game is a refutation of modesty. It is incumbent upon us to be who we are. And this game is such a ridiculously potty piece of self-expression that you can't help but admire it. I could truly say that I was a gamer when I could point to the game and say that is my favourite. Before then, my relationship to games had been nebulous, but after that, after I'd nailed my colours to a mast, I could claim an identity, and the mast I nailed my colours to was Blood Bowl Team Manager. It had everything. As I was rolling towards middle age, it gave me a dose of much-needed nostalgia, but it also felt like a proper game. The game is devastatingly simple, yet every card lay has repercussions. It's supremely tactical, and every faction feels different. In my nascent state as a gamer, before I'd got all cynical and knowing, this game really excited me. The thought of it still does. I need to play this game, and soon. I love this game because it's so clean. It values the efficiency and cleanliness of its design above all else. So many Euro games that claim heaviness as a virtue are just a smorgasbord of mechanisms thrown into a carrier bag, jumbled around and then tossed on the table. This game is designed with such beautiful restraint. And above all that clean design, though, there is grime. Endeavor doesn't shy away from the era it's depicting. The game explores the abhorrence of slavery and doesn't just gloss over it with an economic tint and a link in the rulebook to explicate it. There's none of that cowardice here. This game is neither clumsy nor neglectful. It's quick and it's clever and it's a real joy to play. Now, I'm a serious adult. I mean, look at this stubble. So I shouldn't like a game that goes so far out of its way to look like a kid's game. But Camel Up is just great. It's the perfect race game, and it's so full of incident in the way that races in real life never are. There are constant shifts in position and ludicrous catch-ups. There are hands thrown in the air in exasperation and giggles of glee. This is a game, though. There are decisions to be made. It's just you make them and then chance monkeys around with them. Don't let the box fool you. This is a proper game for proper adults, like what I am. There are worker placement games, and then there are Vlaada Chvátil worker placement games. There's a reason he's the best designer on the planet, and all of this is exhibited in Dungeon Pets. He takes an established form and then elevates it. There's the clamour for spaces, the devilish juggling of resources, a puzzle that rakes across the brain. Also, the game is effortlessly charming and thematically integrated. All of this in one of the most innovative Euros you can buy. His games display such a freshness and mastery that rarely appears in an art form as iterative as board games. It's not like he invents mechanisms. He just takes them and then does them better than anyone else. Also, there are little goblins. As I crawl ever closer to the abyss, games that check in, do what they have to do and piss off really start to appeal. Blitzkrieg doesn't hang around, and yet it's as engrossing a two-player game as you'll find. It's a game of genuine back and forth and real potency in 20 minutes. Look in the dictionary for a definition of efficiency, and you'll see a picture of Blitzkrieg. Paolo Mori strips back his brilliant dogs of war here to make a game that is ludological meth. Play it once and you're hooked. I didn't get to play my copy of this at Essen because it was constantly being played by everybody else. People didn't go to the show, so they could stay home and play Blitzkrieg. You need to be careful with Blitzkrieg. Otherwise, it might just consume your life. Now, I don't give a mayfly's chuff about any of your protestations here. Werewolf is simply brilliant. It's the best way to accommodate a large group of people in an activity that doesn't result in wars or babies. The suspicion it builds, the tension, the outbursts and accusations, the incredulity and the befuddlement. This game has everything. Also, the player elimination doesn't matter because Werewolf is a brilliant spectator sport. There isn't a social deduction game that comes close. They say if you're going to steal, steal from the best. And that's why they all stole from Werewolf. I play this game regularly, and it continues to rise in my estimation. Dmitry Davidov, I salute you. This is Splotter's most approachable game. It still feels like nothing else you've ever played. It still manages to be an engine that functions in the most fascinating way, and it's still evisceratingly mean. But rather than take the whole month to play, it's done in 40 minutes. It's so deep, and yet so simple. This game allows you to screw over everyone else and benefit yourself at the same time. This is the Splotter your granny can play, but none of that breathtaking, willful design is lost in this simplicity. Bus is a masterpiece that everyone should have on their shelves, if just to teach us that sometimes the world is an unfair place, and people, when given the chance, will try to ruin nice things. This is because Bus is a bastard. A glorious bastard. So another 10 down. Please tell me below what you think. Also, this video was made possible by the donations of my patrons. You can become one too by following the link in the box. And I want to end this video by telling you a little story. So the other day, I wanted to put everyone who subscribes to this channel into a spreadsheet. And when I did, Clippy, well, he laughed at me because there were so few of you. Please subscribe. No one wants Clippy to win.